What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Boardman Black and Gold podcast with Zane and David. Interesting thing about this episode is that we are doing it out of necessity of news, and we actually did record another episode before this one. However, the recent news that I'm sure you've already seen by now has prompted us to release this one first, and I'm sure you can guess exactly what we're talking about. It is Aaron Rodgers is a Steeler. So
Yeah.
it took way too long to get to this point. I don't know why it took so long, but here we are and it's reality. So we have to talk about it. It's probably one of the bigger news stories of the offseason. But at the same time, how much good are we going to talk about it? I don't know. We'll see what happens in this episode, but we're going to try to break this down and maybe see how it's going to affect the Steelers this season. So, David, what's your initial thoughts on this?
So my initial thoughts, it was crazy. We filmed the episode that we wanted to release the day before he gets signed. So we were like, all right, we're good. And then he gets signed and we're like, oh, okay, well we gotta we gotta talk about this. So I've been very vocal the whole time. I didn't really want Aaron Rodgers. I just don't see the benefits to having him over Mason Rudolph. Honestly, I like his output the last year. Being on a similar team, I feel like that the Steelers had maybe a little less talented. Well, no, maybe more talented on offense. Um, just seeing that and thinking, I don't really know how he's going to make our team better. I didn't really want him on our team, and I was hopeful because you're right. It took way too long, and I was like, all right, there's just no way at this point. Like it's way too long. It's in the wind. We shouldn't sign him, and then we did. I was quite shocked. So yeah, I'm not a fan. However, I think there are some things to be positive about and to look to and hope because like the first thing that comes to my mind is he's just not going to listen to Aaron Smith, or Arthur Smith. Sorry, he's not going to listen to Arthur Smith and like Mike Tomlin, the way they want to run the offense, because we've seen how inept that they are in doing that. And so that's an excitement where it's like, all right, if the play is actually garbage, Aaron Rodgers will just be like, no, we're going to do this, which I like. And I think Ben used to do that at times. And that was why our offense did some things when Ben was there in his later years. So I think that's something that is a positive, but overall, I'm not a fan of the Aaron Rodgers show coming into our town.
So it's interesting that you say that because I'm a little bit, I don't know if concerned is the word, but I'm interested to see how the Steelers approach having Aaron Rodgers at their disposal because I did a little bit of research. In a fully healthy season over the course of his 20-year career, Rodgers has never had under 500 pass attempts, which is a lot.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then that by proxy means that we're not going to be running the ball as much either. So it's kind of taking the Steelers' identity in that, okay, we want to run the ball. We're kind of made to run the ball, but now we're getting this guy that is pretty much always going to be throwing the ball. So 500 pass attempts in a season, how many times have we done that in the last, or at least since Ben is retired? I don't think we've ever done that. So it's intriguing, especially with the addition of Caleb Johnson at running back and kind of the idea that we're going to try to be a little bit more ground and pound and try to be successful that way. But like you said, Aaron Rodgers, he's not going to take that. He's not going to be handing the ball off as much as we have been the last couple of years. So what does that do to the dynamic of actually how this team is going to function? And is it going to change their mindset of, even 2 months ago when we're like, okay, well, we're not going to get Aaron Rodgers. Now it's like, okay, we have him. How are we going to tender to what he wants to do?
Right, which will be interesting to see because from just being from the outside perspective, it seems like if it's not Aaron's way, Aaron isn't there. And he's not going to do it. And so and like Mike Tomlin, I think is pretty similar. I'm like, if it's not his way and not how he wants to do it, it's not going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see how these two work together. I know that like everyone thinks that they have like plus 100 chemistry because they winked at each other one time, one play when Mike Tomlin called a timeout because our defense wasn't ready. Like that just means the world to everyone, and thinks it's like Super Bowl bound because of that. But I don't really like it's like what you mentioned, it's such polar opposites. And like again, our draft matched up for the ground and pound. And like everything the Steelers do is ground and pound. And so it just doesn't really match. Like it matched last year. Russell Wilson, like the Seahawks ran the football when they had Marshawn Lynch and even when they didn't have Marshawn Lynch. But yeah, I don't know how that's gonna turn out because I just don't think. I think that neither Tomlin or Rodgers are built for a lot of lip and a lot of pushback, and I think that both of them will give it a lot when it's not their way. So this could be a train wreck, or it could. I mean, maybe they can find a happy medium. I don't know, but I agree that like it's erring on the side of concerning.
Well, if that is the case, is this maybe the chance that we've finally been waiting for Mike Tomlin to kind of mellow out in terms of having his lording hand over this team? Is he finally going to like kind of take a step back, take his hands off and say, all right, the reason why we're getting you here is for you to bring us to some success that we haven't had in a long time. Is that even possible? Do you think that's possible?
I hope, I do hope that like maybe he's able to just be like, all right, Rodgers has got it. I'm going to take my hands off, which I think he would do with Ben. And because it was like, well, you know, Ben's a Hall of Famer. I'll just let him be the offense, and I hope that he kind of goes with that for Aaron Rodgers because we've just seen that Mike Tomlin is inept when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, and he doesn't like no matter who the offensive coordinator is. It's weird that our offense still looks the same. So I think that like the lording over that you mentioned, I think is definitely been present, especially the past few years. And I hope that that really takes a break because we've just seen that his handover on offense is catastrophe.
Right. I agree. So now I want to kind of talk about some of Rodgers' stats from last year because I think they kind of fly under the radar a good bit. He had 28 touchdowns, which was seventh in the league. He had almost 3,900 passing yards, which was eighth in the league. He had 11 interceptions, which, is not a great number. And it's actually one of the higher numbers of his career. And then, like we talked about with the passing attempts, 584 passing attempts, which was second in the entire NFL. As far as PFF goes, he is the 20th ranked quarterback around there based on the averages for all three aspects that they look at for Pro Football Focus. He was 2.65 seconds to throw last season. On pressures, he was sacked 22.5% of the time. And to give a little bit of context, the Jets' offensive line was ranked 31st in the NFL last season, and Rodgers played all 17 games. The Jets went 5-12. So out of those numbers, and numbers can lie because I have some other stats that, can, maybe make it to where these aren't as misleading as they could be. But based on what I just told you, what stands out? What maybe gives you some understanding about what he's going to bring to the Steelers?
So, what this reminds me of is the conversation we had when we got Russell Wilson. Because Russell Wilson, I remember I had this conversation with many people. Like the Broncos had a mid-year, maybe a little below average, but we were all like, well, but his statistics. We were like, Russell Wilson had a really good year statistically, like, didn't have a lot of interceptions and stuff like that. And he came in and didn't do horrible till like the end there, but so it reminds me a lot of that, where it was like, and the Broncos were better than the Jets were when we got Russell Wilson. So I think that like we do know to an extent what we're gonna get with Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's a three, 3 to 4 time MVP.
I think four. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 time MVP. Like he makes things happen, and I think that we're gonna get that his level of play, which is not as good as it used to be for sure. I think the past 3 years for him have just been a steady decline in his normal output. But I think that I don't know. I'm not going to expect statistical greatness, but I'm expecting like statistical mediocrity. I'm expecting him to do probably what he did last year, and maybe some less interceptions because our line's better, and it's just so rare of him. So yeah, I would expect the same. I don't know
So
about you.
so with that, understanding just the complexion of the Jets, if he is just average like he was last year, is that good enough for the Steelers to be a successful team? Because again, you think about the Jets defense and the Steelers defense, the Jets O line and the Steelers O line, and then you talk about it a lot how Rodgers had a good bit of weapons with New York. He had his favorite guy, Alan Lazard. He had Garrett Wilson. He had Brees Hall. As far
He
as
got Devontae Adams.
right, right. So it's like, as far as it goes, he might have had more actual talent with the Jets than the Steelers are going to have. But at the same time, the Steelers have DK, they have Freiermuth, they now have Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson. So how can you how can you forecast what Rodgers is going to do based on the talent that he's having at both places?
I think Yeah, and that's a good question. And I think that, like, kind of going to how I believe it would be similar is, I think that the best thing, even though our O line isn't great, it's not the 31st O line in the league. So I think that that's going to help him significantly. I think that, uh, you know, DK Metcalf is a true deep threat, like just a big guy who can moss people. And I think that Aaron Rodgers will, love that. And I will love Freiermuth. I don't know. Jalen Warren we've seen can be a receiving back. I don't really know how Caleb Johnson does as a receiving back. I don't think that's really his specialty or anything. So I don't really see him helping out too much in the pass game. But yeah, wide receiver wise, besides DK Metcalf, we really don't. And I love Calvin Austin, but we really don't have anyone who's like, oh yeah, like that's a weapon. So either he can make them weapons. He had a mediocre receiving core for a bulk of his career at the end of Green Bay and was able to still win MVPs and do everything. It was just Devontae Adams and the encore of whoever else was there. So, it could be similar where it's DK Metcalf and the encore of whoever else we have. So, I would hope that his statistics maybe could be better and that him and DK could have great chemistry, but I don't see enough from our team. Like, I don't see our team being significantly better than the Jets that would make his statistics a lot better just off the jump, if that makes sense.
Okay. So then I guess the next question is comparing the Steelers of what will be this season to last season when we had Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Does Aaron Rodgers, does he buy them a couple of wins? Does he make them lose a couple more games? Like, I guess that's kind of the next question.
Hmm. I think it really I think it really depends on how the relationship with that he has with Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith. Because I think that we saw last year, Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith's relationship seemed to collapse week after week. Like it got worse and worse. And I could very likely see that happening with Aaron Rodgers. And so if their relationship gets worse, I could see a collapse just like last year. But if their relationship stays consistent or they let Aaron Rodgers do what he does, I don't see I find no reason that we wouldn't be hovering once again around the 500 mark, if that makes sense.
So is the ceiling perhaps higher than what we had last year even?
I would say no, because of our team as a whole defensively, I don't really know how much stock I'm putting in our defense coming off of last year. And I also know that Aaron Rodgers is historically horrendous in the playoffs. Like his win, like he just doesn't play well in the playoffs, except for that Super Bowl run. He has had a horrible run of things for the most part. So I wouldn't put much stock as I wouldn't bet money that he would get our first playoff win in 9 years.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's an interesting little thing, and I mean, I'm not saying that he would necessarily. I mean, he's going to turn 42 at some point this season. So, I mean, how much can you really expect out of a 42-year-old quarterback?
Right.
And again, he's he's in the conversation with Tom Brady, but he's like not even close to Tom Brady. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Like
So,
he just statistically he has it all, but like what I was saying, like I mean, just in the big games, he has not delivered since 2010.
right. Now, if he can find a way to get the Steelers to a record to where they have a home playoff game, which I don't know if that's even possible with the way that our division is shaping up this season, but in the event that that's the case, how much do you think that the Pittsburgh fandom is going to rally around him? Because it seems like, I mean, you and myself are fairly negative on this one. I think I'm maybe less negative than I was maybe 4 or 5 months ago, but I mean, I don't think Pittsburgh as a whole is super thrilled about this move.
Right. And I think I would agree that I'm less negative. And I think that if we were to somehow have a season with him where we won the division, I think that it would be pretty easy for us to get behind him, at least for a playoff game. At least to be like, all right, just win a ring for us. I think that like I would be able to get behind him. And part of it would more like I don't know. It's hard like watching an offense where you're not like a fan of the quarterback, and so you're kind of just like, all right, I'll just root for like the team here, or like, which is totally fine. But I think it would be something of that where it's like the love of the Steelers, I think, would outweigh the meh feeling we have for Aaron Rodgers if we were to get to the playoffs and have a home game. So yeah, it just is gonna be weird. It's just gonna be weird. It doesn't feel right. Like it just. I don't know. It'll take some adjusting.
I don't like the Steelers when they're hyped up. I think you don't either. I think the
No.
Steelers thrive the best in the shadows. And there wouldn't have been a better spot for them to be in the shadows than with Mason Rudolph as the quarterback. Having a young team. I think we are getting younger. I think we can both agree that, we are getting younger in terms of the talent pool. We're getting a lot of good talent in the drafts these last couple of years. We're fixing the offensive line. Things are trending in the right direction, maybe, at least in the on-field talent, maybe not in the managerial things, but it throws a wrench into things when you throw a 42-year-old quarterback into the equation, and it doesn't like you said, it just doesn't feel right. I feel like I don't know, like when I heard the news, there's just this weird void in my stomach, I don't I'm not like in super like, oh my gosh, I'm on the floor crying about it. But at the same time, I'm the farthest thing from like rejoicing over it. I'm just like, I'm completely like confused and I just don't know what to think?
Well, and I completely agree, and I think that like to what you said, like everything else we're doing does not match this move. Like we're getting younger and we're doing all these things, and like I really want it to be done with like we're almost like the Broncos, where like they had Tim Tebow for a year, and then they were like, all right, Peyton Manning on his last couple of years, and then nothing worked for a while, and then it was like, all right, Russell Wilson on his last couple of years, and it's like I don't like that. Like no, we don't have a team. You only do that when the rest of the team could take this guy to the Super Bowl, like Peyton Manning did. And we've seen it fail time and time again, and we've seen it fail with us specifically. So I don't like this move because I think it prolongs the rebuild in a way of like just stop trying to like. It's almost like a 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's like we're 1 foot rebuilding, 1 foot. No, I want my 500 record, above 500 record. So we're going to do this. And it's like, just pick a side. Like, if you're going to collapse, collapse. If you're going to shoot for a Super Bowl this year, then do something. So it's just, again, it seems like our direction isn't as strong as we'd hoped it would be.
Right. It's not definitive at all. They're not picking a side. And
No.
this is the ultimate move to prove that, like you said, they're just on both sides of the fence, and they're just sitting right in the middle, and they're not going to do one or the other. So, I mean, we've said it all offseason that if they continue to just be in the middle and not commit to anything, then like you just said a moment ago, like it's just going to prolong this entire process, and it's not going to help anything.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know if all Tomlin is playing for anymore is his above 500 record, because that's what it seems like. Like that's like it seems like these teams are meticulously put together to go 500. It just, except last year we had a lot of hopes, but like it just seems like it's like every little thing is being put together so that we can end up mediocre and 500. And it's like, what? Like, if that's not their goal, they need to wake up, because if it is, they're doing a great job. Because I just don't understand how they don't see how what they're doing isn't getting them to the next level that they want to be at if they want to be there.
Right. If you want to go to the next level, is Mason Rudolph going to take you there? No, but maybe Will Howard can do that in 2 to 3 years. But you have
Right.
to wait, and you have to make that happen. You can't just expect it to happen overnight. That's what we're talking about. You got to develop these guys. You have to put some time and some effort into this and actually get them to where they are now, to the successful level that they want to be later. But they just don't want to commit to that. And they're like, oh, 1-year deal at Aaron Rodgers. Let's see what happens. And we're probably going to go 9-8 or, something along those lines. So again, we're back into the loop. And it's all
Yeah.
been this way ever since Ben retired. They cannot figure out life after Ben.
No, they really can't. And I think that it's just because Tomlin for so long had just turned aside to the offense and was just like, Ben's got it. They'll take care of it. I'll focus on, I don't know, the defense maybe or something else. And now that like that's gone, he's like, oh, I have to like lead this offense. I have to make these decisions. And he's not doing well at it. Every decision has been a miss, honestly, up to this point. Like there hasn't really been, yeah, I mean, since Ben, there really hasn't been any consistency at any point. Like, we haven't had a season since Ben that a quarterback has started all 17 games, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's rough. Now, he did play, or Aaron Rodgers, I should say, played all 17 games last season, so he wasn't hurt, which is a good thing, especially
Yeah,
coming off of that pretty horrific Achilles injury 2 years ago. So, hey, maybe consistency is a good thing. And with this revolving door of quarterbacks we've had the last 3 years or so, maybe that is kind of what this team needs, is a little bit of stability. And, if it's with a league average quarterback at this juncture in his career, maybe it's okay. But at the same time, like we said, stats can lie. The 3 stats that I read, the 28 touchdowns, the 3,900 passing yards, and the 11 interceptions, it's on par with Josh Allen's 2024. It's literally like almost a carbon copy of Josh Allen. But then you look a little bit closer and you realize that Rodgers was much more inefficient. He threw like almost 100 passes, over 100 passes more than Josh Allen last season. His yards per attempt were a full yard underneath Josh Allen, and his QBR was atrocious last year, whereas Josh Allen was one of the best in terms of QBR, and the fact that Josh Allen can actually run. Aaron Rodgers
right.
can't do that. So again, you can look at these statistics and say, wow, he's top 10 in a lot of these statistics, but and as part of that, you can compare him to Josh Allen in those ways. But then if you actually continue to look down, you're like, okay, he's not Josh Allen, which I think the eye test can tell you that. I think that's pretty easy to tell. But
Right, yeah.
there was a post, I forget who it was. It might have been CBS Sports or something like that. But they threw those statistics out there. They put Rodgers right next to Josh Allen. They're like, hey, look at this. Their 2024s were eerily similar. But it's like, okay, like, just have a little bit of critical thinking here. One is Josh Allen and one is a 41-year-old man. Like, come on,
Right.
guys. Like, seriously? Hello? Come on.
Yeah, like one's in the AFC Championship, the other's 5-12. So, like, yeah, that is an interesting point. But yeah, I had no idea that there some of their stats were that close. But yeah, I think that critical thinking would show you that though they look similar, they are not the same.
Right. And that's the whole thing, is that you can't, like, I love statistics. I am a sports statistic person. I love these advanced metrics. I love looking at numbers, but numbers can lie if you don't actually
Right.
look at the entire context of all of them. And again, with the eye test, that is an important thing as well. I watched Aaron Rodgers with my own two eyes when I went to the Jets Steelers game on Sunday night last year. And Rodgers just looks slow. He looks lethargic. He does not look like an NFL quarterback in terms of his athleticism. And he's just not. I mean, you can't expect a 40-year-old man to be that. But,
Right.
Here we are, and, we're looking at these statistics and we're making these comparisons, which it's not worthy of being compared. So
No.
it's a bit concerning. And at this point, I mean, he's going to be the starter. We're not going to chuck out Mason Rudolph when we've got Aaron Rodgers. So, and Will Howard, that means that his time is going to take a little bit longer as well. So it's a weird spot to be. It's really a weird spot to be.
It really is. It's I don't know. It doesn't get I guess to put it plainly, it doesn't really this news does not surprise or oh my goodness. This news does not excite me at all any more than I was for this season. So I think that if anything, I wouldn't say it made me less excited. It probably made me the same, but I would have preferred Mason Rudolph, probably, honestly. But yeah, it doesn't make me more excited. It makes me more like, oh, this is going to be like work. It's going to be like work watching on Sunday at 1. Like, I'm going to have to just be like, all right, just get through it. Just watch.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm wrong. But that is the feeling that I think, I don't know if you agree. I don't know if other Pittsburgh fans agree, but I think that's where we're at.
Well, I think a fair amount of Pittsburgh fans would agree to that, just based on what we know of Rodgers in the last couple of years. And, the reality of things is that, we've said it the last 3 or 4 years, even on this podcast, if you don't prove us wrong, we're going to continue to think the way we do. And until you prove us wrong, then we're not going to change. Because if you're not going to change, then how can you expect us to change our mindset towards you? So that's where we're at. And, if they're not proving us wrong, I mean, last year they proved us very right that, hey, they got going and then they completely collapsed. A couple of years ago, they were not good in the middle. They found a way into the playoffs. They found their way in, and then they absolutely collapsed. Nothing has changed in the last 3 years, even almost 10 years now, since the last time we won a playoff game. So if you're just going to continue to be what you are, then we as fans are going to continue to be what we are, which is pessimistic and looking at things with a glass half empty mindset.
Right. Yeah. And I think that like you said, there's no reason to change that because they have continued to be the same team. They've continued to be the same team since honestly the last time we broke out of this mold was 2017, which 2016 was our last playoff win. So we're really creeping up on that 10-year mark. So ever since then, every single year following that, there's been a collapse at some point, and there's been a push to like, oh wait, we might make it. So it's been since 2018 the same exact team.
Pretty much. Well, nothing's changing here, and I think the two of us are, it is what it is. I think we kind of knew this was probably going to come eventually. The fact that it took so long is completely and utterly ridiculous. But apparently he's going to show up to OTAs here, beginning of this coming week, and then things start. And then the Aaron Rodgers era in Pittsburgh begins. So, love it or hate it, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'll tell you that. I don't know. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I'm just nervous.
Yep. Completely neutral and completely, I don't know. I mean, I just don't care, honestly. It's hard to care. especially when it just doesn't seem like the rest of the organization is, they don't care to pick a side. And that's the thing that keeps frustrating us. But as far as this goes, this is your Aaron Rodgers updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He will be the quarterback this season. We say that with complete neutrality, I guess, in our voices, but it is what it is. As always, the Boardman Black and Gold podcast is sponsored by Zecca Enterprises, crafting furniture solutions in northwestern Pennsylvania. You can call 910-777-3871 to turn your furniture problems into furniture solutions. Like David said, we recorded our schedule release episode literally just a couple of days ago, and then we ended up to where the Rodgers news happened after we recorded it. So we're still in between on whether we'll record it again or not, but we'll see. We'll see. We might just release it. We might just say, hey, this is going to be the same thing. And I think you guys are going to like that episode if we do end up releasing that one, because it is very interesting. We won't spoil anything. We won't tease anything necessarily, but keep an eye out for that whenever we do release our schedule release episode. You'll get our full predictions on the entire year, what record will go, who will beat, who will lose to. So it's a good episode. Be sure to be ready for that one. And as far as it goes, David, any other final thoughts?
I think I'll just say if we somehow win the Super Bowl this year, I just can't even imagine us winning the Super Bowl this year. Like, I just don't know how our management is like, oh, this is gonna get us to a Super Bowl this year. I was just like, I don't even know what would happen if we won. Like, I don't even think I'd be able to celebrate because how much shock I would be in at like, this team, really? Like, this is the one? Like, and how do they not see that? How do they not go like if you just think about the team. Do you think this team can win a Super Bowl? I don't think anyone would say yes, including the people on the staff. So it's just like, I don't know.
I would probably, just the same as you. It's like, I don't know if I could celebrate because I would just be completely shocked. Like, just jaw on the floor. Like, that did that just happen? I don't think that's possible. And I don't think it is possible based on what we're saying. But, at that point, I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm not expecting that. I might not even utter the word Super Bowl this entire year because there's about 5 or 6 other teams that are twice as good as the Steelers coming into this season. So no reason to get the hopes up.
I completely agree. I do not think there is a road in which we get there this year.
Yeah. Maybe even the playoffs. And that's a conversation we'll have to have when it comes to our schedule release episode. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. You can follow us at Boardman and Gold on Instagram. And Zane and David will be back for probably that schedule release episode. And then we have your dad was talking about how he wants to get on and be a little negative Nancy. So we're going to have to coordinate that, make sure we get that here pretty soon. So stay tuned for the original David DeSantis to get on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. So be excited. We've got a lot of good stuff. And hey, football season, like 100 days away or something like that, but it'll come sooner than later.
It will. And I'm excited for it, regardless of what we're going to do.
Yep. Plenty of stuff to be excited about. Fantasy football is always there. You can always live in fantasy world. And our Dynasty League will be kicking up pretty soon. Actually, our draft will be not super long from now, I think.
No, I think it's like beginning of July.
Yeah.
So, and I have no idea. I only have one pick this draft, so I have no idea what I'm going to take.
Oh, dude, that's crazy. I have a couple of picks, and I need... Actually, I'm not telling anybody what I need because I need a lot. But
no, I was so mad last year. I didn't have a tight end, and I wanted Brock Bowers. And then Liam Zinn, a guy on our team, didn't even draft. It was auto-picked. Took him like 2 picks before me. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
That sucks.
So hopefully, I feel like that's the thing. I don't even know what I need yet. Like, I've looked at my roster a few times, and I've just been like, what should I use this on? I have no clue, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out. Anyways, Zane and David on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. Thanks for listening to this episode. We'll be back again, and we're hoping for some good Here We Go Steelers news. Not anything close to this Aaron Rodgers news, but something Here We Go Steelers.
Yes, hopefully.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.